One of my missions here on this channel for a while now has been to just educate people about how expensive it is now to not only become a homeowner, but how expensive it is to be a homeowner after you've already purchased the house, guys. Because already just buying the house at today's prices and interest rates are far beyond what most people can even afford. Just like we talked about yesterday when it comes to people buying cars, it's kind of the same story with cars, but with houses it's actually worse. And once you buy the house, you're not out of the clear, guys. Your expenses for that house are going to continue to go up no matter what your realtor tells you, what your mortgage lender tells you, because even though you might have a fixed 30-year interest rate, you are not going to have fixed expenses on that house. Your property taxes, your insurance are going to continue to rise over the years. Unless the value of your property plummets for some reason, then you're likely to see your insurance and property tax costs go down. But in the meantime, you're probably going to be upside down on the mortgage of that house. Now, a couple weeks ago, I made a video about how so many different property owners in Ohio are furious over a massive property tax increase that they're seeing over there. And I'm trying to let people understand that this is not just happening in Florida and in California where people's real estate values are through the roof. This is happening in middle America, and it's happening in places you wouldn't think, even small towns, guys. One of my viewers, David, he sent me a story from last year. It's kind of an old story already, but it's worth mentioning here because I didn't know about it, and chances are you didn't either. And it's a story out of Maine. And in August of 2023, in Brunswick, Maine, what they are required to do by law is increase the property tax assessment rate. And basically they have a state law in Maine that says municipal assessments need to average between 70 and 110% of market value. And in Brunswick, Maine's assessment value was 58%. So they're required to do a new assessment on these properties there. But here's the problem. This brand new assessment is going to raise property taxes for about 60% of the residents there. So more than half of people can expect to see an increase. So of course the outcry started pouring in once people realized this, and we're worried that they're not going to be able to afford their houses anymore, their property tax bill. So the breakdown is like this. 62% of folks in this area would see an increase in property taxes compared to 15% who would actually see a decrease, and 22% would see no change in their tax bill. And there's actually a reason why some people's taxes would go down, which I'll get into here in just a minute. So here's the interesting thing. The property tax rate is actually going to go down. It's going to go from about $21.69 per $1,000 in value down to $14.50 per $1,000 in value. So on the surface, that might sound like a good thing. But the problem is people's assessed value on all these homes are way outdated compared to what the house is worth today, and that's what they're going to raise. They're going to raise that assessed value. So even though your tax rate might be lower, these people are going to be being taxed on a much higher value amount of their home. So that's what's going to cause the increase in property taxes and could potentially cause the decrease for others. If it's not the lawnmower, it's the street sweeper. Who would have known? Now I'm being followed by that. Hey, at least they're cleaning up the street, right? At least that machine serves a purpose, unlike the leaf blower. So here's an example of how this is going to hit people, guys. Remember, the tax rate's going down significantly, but the valuations are going up. And here's a resident that can give you a good example of this, okay? This guy, his new assessed value on his home is going to be $762,000. Last year, it was $287,000. So tax rate going up, but valuation on the home skyrocketing, right? So what's going to happen to him? His tax bill right now is about $6,000 a year. It's going to balloon to $11,000 after this change, guys. $11,000. His property taxes are going to double. Now, am I telling you that everybody who buys a home this year or next year or whatever is going to see their property taxes double? No, not necessarily, but I am saying that it could happen because it highly depends on where you live. As you can see in Brunswick, Maine, they have this law. They need to comply with these state required assessments throughout the entire state of Maine. So in this case, when a town falls below the required threshold, they have to be between 70 and 110% of what the actual home values are, and they're below it, the entire town gets reassessed, guys. That's how this works over there. Here in Florida, I don't think we have that. I've never heard of that before. But it doesn't matter because our property taxes go up basically every year. And I have a future video planned where I'm going to show you why the homestead exemption here in Florida is a scam, guys. It doesn't really do what it's designed to do, but I will touch on that in a later video. So here's also the problem with this, right? All these new property tax assessments that are being made in Brunswick, Maine, are based on the recent run-up in the housing market, right? This crazy increase that we saw everywhere throughout the entire country. And what a lot of the residents are saying over there is like, how come we're holding ourselves hostage to this single most overheated real estate market in our lifetimes? The fact that we're pinning our entire tax base to that, it can't be what we end up doing. So this guy's argument is saying, how is it fair that our tax assessments are going to be based on, the speculative bubble prices of real estate, essentially? Not like what the houses are really worth, but speculative bubble prices. So a couple things that people need to understand if you're going to be buying a house soon. Number one is that your property taxes and insurance are always subject to go up, okay? Especially, you need to pay attention to this. We see this sometimes on the walks here. You'll see a house where it's worth $3-4 million they're asking for the house, but the owner has a $6,000 a year property tax bill, which is like, how is that possible? Well, it's possible because they bought it many years ago, and the homestead exemption has helped the property tax bill not go up to the crazy amount that it would be today. But as a new buyer, when you purchase that home, it gets reassessed, and when that happens, you are stuck with the new tax bill, which is going to be significantly higher. And you must take that into consideration when you're figuring out, can you really afford this house, number one. But even if you live in an area where your house doesn't get reassessed when you buy it, and say you inherit the old property tax bill from the owner, at some point your property will get reassessed, like these people in Brunswick, Maine, and it can come and blindside you guys. So it's really important for you to understand what the laws are in your state, the county that you're buying in order to determine if something like this could potentially happen to you. Because the last thing you want to be is getting hit with a tax bill that's double like this guy. Imagine your tax bill goes from $6,000 to $11,000 a year. Could you afford an increase like that? And if the answer is no, you need to be very careful when buying any house today. I don't care what the price is or where it's at. And once again, I'm not saying don't do it. I'm just saying be mindful that these things can happen because they are happening to people all across the country. I've had numerous people write me their stories, both in the comments and in the emails that I receive from you, as well as hearing about these news stories time and time again of people's bills going up exponentially practically overnight like this through no fault of their own, right? They didn't do anything wrong. Even bought a house a long time ago when it was cheap. That was definitely a good move, but now they're going to get hit with a higher tax bill. And don't forget, guys, if you are somebody who wants to buy a house soon or sell a house, be sure to use my link in the description below. I can set you up with a real estate agent anywhere you're at in all 50 states of the country. It's a completely free service for you to use. Not only does it benefit you, but it benefits the channel, and if you use it, I appreciate it. We knew we couldn't escape these leaf blower guys forever, man. I had to run into them at some point again. Now here's the next thing that's happening with real estate right now. An emerging trend that people are doing because housing is so unaffordable is more and more people are looking to move into warehouse spaces that can be, both used as residential and their office space, guys. And I've heard of people doing this in the past, but now it's a re-emerging trend due to the unaffordability. And warehouse space right now is far more affordable than buying a house or a condo or townhouse or any sort of typical residential real estate. But before you look down on this as something stupid to do, this can actually be a very smart financial move. There's a 32-year-old guitar luthier here in Boca Raton, Florida that did this, and he is now able to save 75% of his income and have a nice setup for his guitar luthier business. So how cool is that? I have to pay this guy a visit at some point and bring in one of my guitars for a setup. But he said he did get lucky to find this place. He got it through a friend, and he got lucky with the deal and the price and all of that. And that's always how the best deals are usually found in real estate, is through somebody you know, probably not through the MLS, unfortunately. But apparently more and more Americans are willing to do something like this if it saves them money. Because in a recent survey, about 42% of people said that they would live in a warehouse with 0 windows if the rent was $300 a month or less. So for the right price, people would be willing to live in basically what would be like a prison, you know, no windows or anything like that. That's kind of miserable. Think you get nice and peace and quiet by these waterfront homes? Think again. You got construction next door and the really annoying leaf blower guy down the street. But it's still beautiful. So you're probably going to see a lot more people resorting to more creative living situations like this in the future due to the unaffordability of housing. And I think people should pursue this, guys. If something like this fits your lifestyle and your budget, and this would be beneficial to you, why not do it? You know, just like people that want to live in tiny houses, you know, they're minimalists and they don't want to have anything. They want to have a low payment and just be able to step outside their front door and be in nature at any moment. That is cool. You know, anybody who wants to live this way should. And what that's going to do is it's going to help the cost of housing come down, because the less people that are buying traditional real estate, then the less competition there's going to be for it, and that will help prices come down. It says here that in some places like Milwaukee and Detroit, you can score a warehouse for just $1,000 a month in rent. And then if you're able to subdivide the space into smaller rooms and things like that, you could even share it with friends and, you know, be paying $200–300 a month to rent a place like this. So that is a creative living solution for sure. And the average that people are paying right now for warehouse rent is about $878 per month. So that is far lower than I would expect it to be, especially for such a big space. But once again, it doesn't have all the traditional amenities that you're gonna have in a home, right? So a lot of times you might have to install walls and plumbing and electricity in different spots that you might need it, which also can cause problems with local zoning issues and things like that, because depending on where you're trying to do this at, it might not be technically allowed. You have to make sure that the zoning laws are correct. You have to make sure that, you know, the warehouse is basically allowed to be used for residential use, and renting or leasing spaces to tenants in warehouses can typically be a problem when it comes to violation of housing or fire codes. So, but I'm sure that's not going to stop people that are looking to make a buck. I'm just saying, do your research first, and then whatever you decide to do from there is on you. But the thing is, even if you have to do a small build out in a place like this, that shouldn't be a deterrent, because of the fact that more than half of the homes on the market for sale in the US right now were built in 1980 or earlier. So many of the houses out there are getting close to 45, 50 years old, if not older than that, guys. And they need extensive repairs. There was a lot of deferred maintenance over the years. So even if you buy a traditional home, chances are it's probably going to need a lot of work, unless it's a turnkey house, which you always pay a premium for. But I think people that are struggling to afford the traditional housing method right now should be looking at all different alternatives. You know, look at living in a tiny home, look at splitting a place with roommates and house hacking, look at the warehouse living, look at living in an RV. You know, a lot of people are doing that these days, and traveling the country if you have a remote job. Like, there are things you can do to significantly cut back on your housing expenses if you're willing to get away from this typical societal norms. Now, one of my viewers, AJ, sent me this Instagram snapshot that I'm going to put up on the screen here, that basically proves how much people are only concerned with the monthly payment rather than the purchase price of their home. And I want to kind of break down this whole screenshot to see if there's actually truth to this or not. Realtors will use a lot of things like this as advertising to get people to realize that, hey, you should still buy a house right now, and here's why you shouldn't be worried about paying full price, and la-di-da-di-da. So this is a very good marketing tactic for real estate agents to convince people that it's okay to overpay for a home. So what it says is, if you ask the seller to reduce the cost of a $300,000 home by $10,000, you'll save $78 a month. But if you ask the seller for a $10,000 credit to buy down your interest rate, you'll save $248 a month. But I'm going to prove to you guys that this is an exaggeration, okay? Because I did the math and we're gonna go over it here now. First of all, they're missing some pretty important information to even make these claims. They're not telling you what the interest rate is at this amount. They're not telling you what the down payment is either, what percentage you're putting down to buy this house. But let's just make some assumptions and do our own math here. So according to my math, if we use a 7% interest rate, which is probably what most people are looking at today, with this $300,000 home and a 10% down payment, which is pretty typical for people buying a single family home, and 2% a year for property taxes and $4,000 a year for homeowners insurance, you're looking at a monthly payment of $2,762 per month. Now, if you were to take $10,000 off the purchase price and all else remains the same, your payment will go down to $2,681 per month, which saves you about $81 per month by getting that $10,000 discount off the price. However, if you take that $10,000 credit and put it towards buying mortgage points, which is what they're telling you to do here, when you buy mortgage points, each point that you buy costs 1% of your mortgage amount. Now, if we take that $10,000 credit and put it towards buying mortgage points, each point will cost 1% of your mortgage amount, which in this case is a $270,000 mortgage. So each point will cost about $2,700. So this allows you to buy about 3.7 points, which equates to about 0.93% less on your interest rate, putting your new interest rate down from 7 to 6.07%. When we punch this into the mortgage calculator, this is what we come up with, $2,597. So it's not a huge spread. You're talking saving $84 a month between the two. So first of all, not as great of a difference as they're showing in this meme. You know, they're exaggerating here and telling you you're going to save hundreds of dollars per month when it's actually only $84 per month. But there's more to the story than that, because when you factor in property taxes and insurance, that will also be higher when you pay more for the house, and you're paying $200 more per year roughly in property taxes. That equals about $16 a month at a 2% property tax rate. You have your insurance coverage, which could also cost a little more, but probably won't make a huge difference at a $10,000 difference in price. And also, every time your property taxes go up, your evaluation will be based on the $300,000 rather than the $290,000 that you would have had if you had a lower purchase price. So in the end, you're only actually saving $68 a month, getting the mortgage rate buy down, assuming it's permanent. It can't be one of those temporary buy downs. But we can't forget about the opportunity cost of the extra $10,000 you're sinking into the home. If you put that $10,000 into a high yield savings account, you could be earning 5.2% interest right now, which is another $520 a year, which equals about $43 per month. Subtract that from the $68 a month you think you're saving, and now you're really only saving $25 a month. But if you invested that $10,000 in the stock market and you're earning an even higher return than the 5.2%, it can easily wipe out the $25 per month savings that you're getting from this mortgage rate buy down. And a couple other things you have to take into consideration here with this is, number one, when you're negotiating the price of a house, typically you can get the price lower than just $10,000 off of a $300,000 price. Theoretically, usually you can. But to get the seller to contribute more than $10,000 towards paying points for your mortgage is probably unlikely. It's just easier from a negotiation standpoint for the seller to just lower the price for you. But also, it's in the seller's best interest to lower the price rather than pay for your mortgage points, because the lower the price they sell the house for, the less they will also have to pay in commission. So it benefits not only you getting the lower price of the home, but it benefits the seller who has to pay the real estate agents less. So that's another factor to consider here. Also, guys, you have to think about when you're closing your loan, when you go to the closing table, the higher your purchase price and the higher your mortgage amount is, then the more your closing costs will be, because all your closing costs are based on that. How much are you paying for the house? How much is your loan amount? And the higher those two numbers are, the higher all of your closing costs will be as well. So really the point of this exercise is to show you that when you see these little headlines like this on Instagram or other social media, whatever, with realtors, you know, making these bold claims that you're going to save all this money. When you break it down and do the math and factor in property taxes, factor in opportunity costs for the extra money you're going to spend on the house, factor in insurance that could cost extra, factor in all the closing costs for the property, all of these things, what you'll quickly find is these claims are basically invalid. It could pretty much break down to being kind of even over the years. But paying less for the house is always going to benefit you in the long run, even when it comes to reselling the house, because you're just going to have more equity from the beginning. You paid less for the property versus somebody who paid more. And this is a small example, right? $10,000 off the asking price, but this can scale up to a much bigger level on higher price homes. You know, when you're paying $600,000-$700,000 for a house, these numbers could balloon to $70,000-$80,000 off the asking price, or $50,000 off, you know? So the bottom line is here is don't take these things at face value when you see them on social media. Learn how to do the math yourself. I know it sucks to go through this and calculate all these things, but if you want to make sure that you're getting the best deal, unfortunately, crunching the numbers is the only way to figure that out. And everybody's deal is going to be different also. You have to keep in mind that your down payment could be smaller or bigger than this. Your purchase price could be different. Your interest rate can be different. The property tax rate can be different. The insurance can be different. All these things play into what your payment will actually be. So once again, I'm trying to equip people here with learning how to do this stuff on their own, and looking at the example that I gave you here on the screen to give you kind of like the blueprint and the template of how you could crunch these numbers yourself and find out if in fact it makes more sense to buy mortgage points and have the seller pay for it and you pay full price for the home, or you get a significant discount off the purchase price, because you might be surprised at the answer. So if you guys enjoyed this video, make sure you subscribe to the channel, and if you don't want to wait for my next video to come out, check out this one on the screen right over here, and I'll see you in the next one.